range of my range. Like if you're in the age range of 35 to 45, give or take, you've probably seen the first Happy Gilmore at least a dozen times. It was just something our generation watched over and over again on VHS. It did pretty well at the box office in the theater, but home video is really where that and Billy Madison really took off. You know, Sandler's first two breakthrough movie roles, and that's where he really got big. Was people watching those movies over and over again at VHS, and then came The Wedding Singer and Waterboy in '98. Those did really well in the theater as well, as did Big Daddy. Then came his first big flop, Little Nicky. But all of his movies in the '90s, they made money, a decent amount of it, either at the theater and or on home video. So, but yeah, it was, you know, my generation that watched both Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison over and over again on VHS. So you probably have fond memories of Happy Gilmore 1. So obviously it's hard to do a sequel to a movie that's been so beloved for almost 30 years by an entire generation, or at least a fragment of a generation. You know, we're talking elder millennials and zennials. So, you know, you're going to go into it expecting a lot. And I tried not to. Given the track record of Adam Sandler, his movies over the past 15 years or so, you know, a lot of them have been pretty bad, not very memorable. So I set my bar very low. I was watching it thinking, okay, can I sit through this and enjoy it, even if I don't really laugh at it? And I didn't really. There were a few chuckles here and there, but I think a lot of the jokes fell flat, or just were not written very well. Like there was an idea of a joke, but it didn't follow through very well. There was one scene that I laughed a decent amount, but everything else was a chuckle at best. You know, and contrast that with me continuing to laugh at the first movie multiple times after having seen it 30 times. You know. But you know, it's not great by your typical movie standard, but by the standard of Adam Sandler movies over the past 15 years, it's decent, it's watchable. I think they did way too many flashbacks to the first film. You know, going off what I said, like if you're an elder millennial or a zennial, you've probably watched the first film more than enough times to get all the references that they throw out in the second film. So the fact that they needed to keep showing you shots of the first film, that was just annoying and unnecessary. It's like, yeah, we get it, we remember that. You don't need to straight up show us. You know, it makes it feel. It almost makes it feel too much like a commercial and not enough like a movie. I think there were times where it did feel too much like a commercial, like an extended commercial, rather than a film. But having, you know, I'm not going to try not to spoil anything in this. However, it did have a decent story for a sequel. Almost 30 years later. I'd say Adam Sandler's arc Happy Gilmore's arc in the film makes sense. There's something very surprising they do with another character that I won't give away that might upset people, but I thought it made sense given what happens in the first film. With the other characters, some of the other characters. they do with Shooter, I think starts off really interesting, but it goes nowhere, and that was really disappointing. When I got to the part of the movie, there was like a buildup of something you think's going to happen with Shooter, and when I got to that part of the movie where like that just goes nowhere, basically, I was really disappointed. I'd say I enjoyed the movie more before I got to that point. I think they could have done a lot more with Shooter's character, Shooter McGavin. He was such a good villain in the first film. He was so stuck up and really got under your skin. So it's a shame that they didn't do enough with his character, in my opinion. I'm not going to try to spoil too much. Take your own. Take it in yourself and form your own opinion, obviously. But that was just my thought. Was that I wish they could have done more with his character. Ben Stiller, it feels like he's in the movie just because he's Ben Stiller. His character. I mean, his character's memorable enough in the first film, but not to the point where you think, oh yeah, he's definitely going to be in the sequel. Yeah, and he was an antagonist. He was mainly an antagonist to the grandma character. I guess I will spoil that she's not in this movie, but that should be obvious enough because the actress is deceased. But so it just feels weird that he was even in the movie. It's just like, oh yeah, it's Ben Stiller, that's why. And he's a lot more popular now, of course, than he was in '96. In the mid '90s when he did like Heavyweights and Happy Gilmore and a few other movies, like he wasn't a super well-known actor. When you shot at Ben Stiller, people wouldn't have immediately known who that was. And, they wouldn't have it until like There's Something About Mary and Meet the Parents in '98 to 2000. That's when he started becoming a bigger name. So yeah, obviously he's a huge name now. I think that's the only reason they cast him in this sequel. There are various other cameos that, and none of them really feel necessary. And I didn't really think, oh, haha, it's so funny that they are in the movie and they did that in the movie. Like, it's just like, oh, okay, haha. Like, it's like the laugh comes from the fact that they're just in the movie. And that feels kind of cheap to me. It's like, hey, it's that guy, haha, that's the joke. But it wasn't terrible. It even had some. I don't think it had as many heartfelt moments as the first film, but it had a few of them. So like I said, the story's not terrible. The story goes in really weird directions, and I think the movie is too long. I think there were several things they could have cut. And I'd say the sequel might appeal to younger generations in some ways more than the first. Because there's some like kind of more like new age isn't quite the correct term, but like stuff that maybe fits in a little bit more with the modern zeitgeist than my generation's zeitgeist. So I think if you're younger than me, especially, you might take away something different from the film. But if you're my age and you've seen the first movie a million times, I would encourage you to go in with low expectations and just expect to enjoy it enough. Like I said, it's not as terrible as a lot of Sandler movies from the past 15 years. It's watchable enough, and there might be a few things here and there you'll enjoy, kind of mixed together with moments that drag too long, or you're like, why is that even in the movie, or that wasn't very funny. But it's on Netflix, so I watched it in segments. I think had I gone to the theater to watch it, I would have been pretty disappointed, because like I said, it goes on too long. But being able to watch it in segments, I think made me enjoy it better. Something to just watch if you have the time. I wouldn't. You can wait to watch it. It's on Netflix. Probably will be on there for a while. So, my 2 cents. Take care.